Andres, welcome to the podcast and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, people of the future. How are you?
I've got a philosophical question first up and a bit of an
Okay.
icebreaker. So, how long is a piece of string?
Hmm. All right. What is the stream made of?
String.
If it's short, it's about like this,
Hmm.
probably. If it's long, it's equal to the amount of time that is going for us to release Monerujo version 2, probably.
I love the answer.
I don't want to I don't want to ruin everybody's like New Year's, but yeah, we get in there. We get in there slowly but surely.
So let's get into the hard-hitting topics. So there's
Okay.
obviously a bit of dystopianism in Argentina, if you want to call it that. So firstly, like what's going on in Argentina and what role is Monero playing in fighting the current situation in Argentina?
How dare you say dystopianism? Ah, I'm so offended by that. Yeah, Argentinians, we are the first to call our country a dystopia. Look, I've said it in the past with regard related to Monero stuff. Argentina, I think it's a good case scenario, and really it's a bad case scenario for some of the things that we have seen in the world getting more and more widespread right now. So, just to say it quickly, inflation is super high. Um, it's not hyper high because technically hyperinflation is like thousands or something like that, but we are practically in 100% inflation per year. I think the official number is 97 or 96. So if the official number is is that, you can imagine how the unofficial and real number is. But really, approximately 100%. So your money is worth a lot less if you wait a year to spend it. And of course, the other side of the coin is the valuation. It's a personal fight that I have with everybody else that always says that the dollar here is rising in price, which I think being an Argentinian prepares you for crypto because you learn very fast that no price is fixed. So there is not such thing as the USD standard, for example, compared to what, you know? So yeah, but we are having like a very strong devaluation of the national currency, and it keeps accelerating, So just to give you an example, I don't have like the super precise numbers, but perhaps at the beginning of December or a month ago, you could exchange $1 for 300 pesos, and now it's 350 in a couple of weeks, and stuff like that. So of course, I'm talking about the unofficial exchange rate. That is some other particular thing that we have here. So just to sum up, we have a mix of weird stuff that we do with money, weird experiments. For us, they are not strange, but it happens to me every time that I talk with someone from abroad that at first, unless they lived in, I don't know, Turkey or Greece or places like that, they really don't understand it at first. They say, but how? But why? But so, yeah, and you have to basically do a monetary 101 stuff. But yeah, it's not good. Poverty is near the 50% of the population, and of course, poverty standards differ from country to country. So it's not fun being poor here. And I can tell you all those numbers, and your idea of Argentina would be that it's basically, I don't know, just a hurricane passed by and it's chaos in the streets and people are like throwing Molotov cocktails to public well, we've been there a couple of years ago, but it's not like that. It's just not like that. To me, it's like the story of the frog that boils, you know, slowly, slowly, slowly. We get used to that, and Argentinians are very adapted to live in those environments. And what we are seeing now in the world is basically the same, but slower.
So, how are people managing there? Like, are people just increasingly become poorer and poorer and poorer? Are people starting to fight back and take action to protect themselves? Like, how
Yeah,
difficult is it to navigate?
basically, yes, that's what happens. And if you see it as a whole, if you take the country as a whole, of course, it's a very uneven country. People mostly live in the cities. People from the countryside is kind of different, but yeah, if you take the real numbers, we are getting poorer every day, measured at least in USD, for example, or some other international measure, on euros if you want to. But yeah, most people are getting poorer every day. And again, I don't know if I can explain it well, but I see it everywhere now. I mean, I see it globally now, what is going on, and the tricks that the government plays on you. For example, people try to fight back. You ask just how. People basically, it's like the gut instinct, the reflex that they have is just to exchange the Argentinian peso as fast as they can for USD. Because traditionally USD dollars is the most saved currency here. But look what happens after decades of continual economic crisis and devaluations. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Argentinians, because it's not Argentina, Argentinians are the second largest holders of dollars in the world, which doesn't make any sense until you remember there is basically been 3 generations of people that doesn't have its own currency to save, right? And it's not a poor country, so that's what happens. It's not it's not like we have a volcano and everything is ruined, and also economy keeps moving, but the same way that you have 50% of the economy of the people is poor by our own standards, 50% of the economy, or I think 40, is a black market. I mean, it's unregistered. It doesn't pay taxes, so you don't even know how much it is. So that's how people fight back as well. People stop paying taxes. It's like a libertarian paradise without the good stuff, without the citadel and the flying cars and all that. Basically, you can pay most things with cash. You buy a house with cash. So people fight back. Just to answer your question, people fight back two ways, basically: flying from the currency, and doing as much as possible in cash.
And what role is Monero playing? Like, is Monero being adopted in Argentina?
Monero is playing no role whatsoever, if I have to be sincere.
And Bitcoin?
Yeah, crypto in general and Bitcoin a bit more. I think I'm a bit biased because I live in a city and I work kind of in tech, so it's very widespread. I don't know how much the regular people are aware of crypto, but it's a big force here because you see it everywhere for the past 3 years. Many fintechs, of course, with KYC, have appeared, not only from abroad, not only Binance, for example, but companies from here that gives you like a debit card prepaid with crypto, that kind of like crypto.com stuff. We have several here now. So awareness of crypto is growing every day, especially since the last bull market, like the 2019, something like that. And many people used to mine Ethereum, for example, with GPUs. I haven't seen so many ASICs, for example. They are very expensive and difficult to. Basically, customs here are a nightmare, of course, since everything has to be tight and controlled. Customs are a nightmare. So, but GPUs with Ethereum and the bull market from Ethereum for the past 3 years before this one, encourage many people, or like here, you start to hear in conversations or in social gatherings like, yeah, I'm mining crypto, yeah, I'm mining, and they almost all the time meant Ethereum. And I was the weird guy saying, you can also use the CPU. Yeah, I think I heard it somewhere. Awareness of Monero is basically non-existent, but it's a match made in heaven, if you ask me. I mean, it should be way higher. Again, if I have to think why that hasn't happened yet, I would have to say it's price. I mean, because the same way that we are super used to look for ways to avoid currency controls, for example, they're always on the look for good, let's call it business opportunities. So, okay, if I buy dollars here and I sell them here, I get a spread. And so if you see that Monero is getting high in price, people will research it in 10 seconds, how to mine it, how to exchange it, how to use it. That's my opinion. It's not very romantic, but I think that's going to happen.
No, definitely. I think you're right. Like price, be it for good, be it for bad, obviously plays a big role in crypto. And it goes to show you, like during the bear market, Monero is like the second best performing asset of this year. And I think that's literally because of when all the speculation leaves the market, Monero is pretty much the only one left being used. And I think I don't even think it's just for Argentina. I think for pretty much every country in the world that Monero can play like such an important role. People just don't know it. And also it goes against the interest of the government too. Like the government naturally just doesn't want privacy, means they can't collect taxes. They obviously want to control the money. So in that sense, it's a match made in hell.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I mean, to me, it's natural. But in conversation with people from other countries, I've noticed nowadays it's not so much like that. But we tend to think of the government in an adversarial way by nature, especially when it comes to economics, because we have endured every experiment under the sun, right? So nobody thinks the government has your own interest at heart when it makes policies or whatever. And
Some
if I
do.
had to
The COVID believers do.
Yeah, let's not even get there. But just if you're talking money, there is not even like a divide here. It's not like with COVID, like pro or against. Nobody thinks the government has your best interest at heart here. We've seen so many weird shenanigans about with money. So I think that's a training, and I think people in other countries are waking up a bit to that, which is sad in a way, right? Because I kind of envy for a while some countries that you listen to people from those countries and they really feel like the government is their representative or whatever,
especially in Australia.
Or maybe the US as well. Like it's their government and they foster change, or they decide, and if they don't like what the government is doing, well, some people get rifles and some people just vote them out. We don't even have that. I mean, of course we have elections, democratic elections, and it's not a lost battle, but nobody thinks change is going to come from there. And when it comes to money, it's playing devil's advocate. It's impossible for any Argentinian money to control the economic situation because nobody believes you. It's like the casino, it's like it always wins. It's opposites. It always loses. Eventually in time, your whole population is betting against you. It's shortening you as a government all the time. So, and it's like prisoners. It really is like prisoners that they look for the tiniest creek, the more complex plan because they have time and resources, and they make like a gun out of a soap, and they make a tunnel with just a spoon. And Argentinians and money are like that. And I think the whole world is waking up to that. And Monero is like the best spoon to dig out that tunnel. I mean, it may not be in its best shape right now in terms of user experience. There's a lot of room to improve, but it's pretty damn good as it is, and it's way better than the rest. In my most Monero Maxi side is way better than the competition, so to speak.
So
and
let's
it's ready for a lot more exposure than it has today.
So let's shift gears for a second. So CBDCs, social credit scores. Obviously, we're seeing CBDCs. They're on trialing in China. They've been trialing for a little bit. The EU is strongly hinting at dropping a CBDC. The USA has the Fed now pilot program. Social credit scores we see in China. I think these, whether it's even through a carbon credit score in the EU, which is probably likely. How do you see CBDCs and social credit scores playing out, and like what threats do you think they play?
I think that together with price, they are going to be one of the best advertisements for Moneros ever. I really do. The thing is that it's not going to be a clean fight. They don't fight clean. That's the short answer. I mean, and again, it is a bit like the frog in the boiling water. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a CBDC day where suddenly they turn the switch, and because I wouldn't dare to say nobody, but most people will not like that, or will at least have a bit of trust issues with the government if you suddenly say like, But again, you see the history when when they did the whole gold thing in the US, they banned gold all of a sudden, and then you think, well, maybe they could do the same again, or they can try at least. I don't think this is going to happen the same thing again. I think the internet, not even for better or for worse, it's a great, it's the best thing ever. It's super difficult to control, even though it's pretty much centralized, even though we allow the internet to become commercially very centralized, and we, the users, have been very complacent in just give me free stuff in exchange for my liberties, and especially in exchange for centralization. Give me efficiency and ease of use. And we are starting to see in the cracks of that. The alternatives, of course, are not at the same level that their counterparts. They're super easy to use social networks and all that. I think with CBDC is going to happen the same thing. We already have like CBDC beta, so to speak. For example, I told you that here you use cash a lot. I've seen that in Germany they use cash a lot. They have their historic reasons as well. But in most of Europe and the US, you pretty much use your credit card, even for very small purchases. You can add the crypto word to that, but it's basically a CBDC. I mean, you don't control anything. You are surveilled for everything that you do. And the moment that you get, luckily, a judge order if you're playing by the rules, but basically the government can shut off your bank account and your entire life savings. They can even take away your property, your land, if you think that is safe. It's basically yours because the government has like a stack of papers. Here it's actually a stack of papers, or it's not even a system that you have to look for and says, okay, Anhdres owns this piece of land. The moment that they decide that I'm not a true or a good individual of this country, I'm gone. So your keys, not your coins. I think the CBDCs are a reality. I think they're coming. They have been coming for a while. And my negative view is that people are not going to complain enough, because they are very, very convenient. They will make it very enticing.
I definitely agree. I think it's it's like you say with the internet, people give away basically their liberties for efficiency, for ease of use, or whatever it might be. I think CBDCs are no different. I think it's probably a good segue into social credit scores too, because I think CBDCs, digital IDs, they sort of like set the base work, I suppose, for an effective social credit score. And just while we're on that point, I think one thing I worry about with Bitcoin is that it can be used as essentially to implement a social credit score on. So if you have like your address, most people, I mean, a lot of Bitcoiners will say that, oh, you buy Bitcoin non KYC, they don't know who you are, etc. But the reality is, you know, most people, especially if you make it something like illegal to buy non KYC because you're a financial terrorist or whatever they frame the narrative as, if they then and most people are just going to buy KYC, so they know your address, they know the shop you're transacting with address, they can implement all kinds of blacklist, i.e. non-KYC address not registered in our thingamabob. That's obviously a nuanced conversation within itself, but that's one thing I do worry about with Bitcoin, is that essentially because they can track everybody, is that it can become a social credit system within itself. Do you think that's plausible at all? Or do you think I'm crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. My negative view of the humanity is that people are not going to care. They're just not going to care.
I agree.
The same way that I think Bitcoin is great. I mean, of course, but it's not the first. I assume when I talk, I assume that is the first thing that we all encounter is my case, but it's not anymore, because some people got it way later. But I love Bitcoin. It could be like it could be a force of change, but sadly, it's super naked, and you cannot make it work. I mean, you cannot make it work, and people don't care. And if you get more adoption, the adoption that you're going to get is all KYC, and it's all not even self-custodial. The people, let me turn into my bitter half, right? Because I am an optimist. I don't sound like one. I am not an optimist. I think eventually we get to better places, but I think most of the people that would care enough about the technology and the idea or the ideals behind crypto to be self-custodial, to get stuff out of exchanges, or not to use KYC, already did. All there is to win of market share, so to speak, of mind share of people, is people that don't care. And I don't know if we are not doing a good enough work and job explaining or getting people to care more about those stuff, but the reality is that most people don't care. So even if I was a true a maxi Bitcoiner, what I would be fighting against is Bitcoin is just going to be a reference number. I mean, people are just going to buy Bitcoin for the price exposure, and they will just leave it on exchange. It's basically a stock at this moment for most people, especially for most new people.
So where do you think we are in Monero adoption? Obviously, it's got its niche on the darknet. That's pretty much more or less, obviously with the Monero community. But in general, it's got its niche within the darknet, which, just while we're on the topic, is the real indicator for me for long-term adoption, because we see censorship resistance as one characteristic. But where do you think we are in, I suppose, Monero's adoption? Where we're going and how does it play out? If you even think Monero will be adopted.
I told you I have a half that is optimist, so I think Monero is going to be adopted, at least more adopted. Look, the Monero adoption on the darknet, that is something that some critics point at you this is your dirty coin that is used by drug dealers. To me, it's like the pillow that I rest my head every night. It's nice dark markets and options, because it's what keeps me at ease that we are doing a good job. And I say we because I like to think of myself part of the community, not because I code anything. I think that is a good thing, to believe yourself that you're part of something and you can contribute regardless of what you can do. But so darknet adoptions, I think they are very important. I think they are the most stressed use case that you can get, at least organically. And I will always prefer organic stress tests that just pay a firm that's going to try to find holes on it and report. Yeah, you can do both. It's good to do both, but as long as it keeps being used and adopted and rising in adoption in the other markets, I think it's a good thing. It's like the canary on the coal mine. It's like, but something good we are doing, and we are preparing for that scenario. And regarding the future, I think best case Monero is something that would be equal to, I don't know, dollars on the street in Argentina. It's like the pulsating alternative currency of the world, not admitted by any official government, not admitted by El Salvador. You won't see. It would surprise me a lot if you see something like your picture behind you saying Monero Day in El Salvador. Not going to happen. Not maybe Seychelles Day, something like that. But I don't see it happening. But luckily, best case scenario is like the blood flowing through the markets of the world. Kind of difficult to detect, kind of difficult to understand. But you see the evidence, right? You see stuff moving, and you don't know how and why. And to me, that's beautiful. Not because of bad things that will happen, but because of all the restrictions, all the artificial restrictions that they disappear. And worst case, I think is going to be, I don't think it's going to disappear. I think worst case is going to be like a nerdy thing, like using Signal, and yeah, it has 3 million users, I don't know, 10 million users, but WhatsApp has 140 billion something, right? So working for the people that needs it, and working better every day, and waiting for his moment. And you see it all the time. Then comes like a big news, some big scandal, and some more people flock to that. And those that do, if we do a good job, they never go back, because it's easy enough, is useful enough, it provides value. And then you see, I mean, it happened to me. I mean, of course, I got into Monero. I tried to use Monero more. It really is the crypto that I like to use the most. And I think that's what happens with everybody that gets into Monero. It's like, I'd rather pay with Monero. I mean, it's just easier. It's just, you don't mind, you don't have to mix it with anything. You don't have to care for anything else. And it's basically, the joke is that it's basically it's like a decentralized stablecoin at this moment. So it's the closest to a decentralized stablecoin that you could get.
A real store of value, hey?
Yeah.
Unlike the Bitcoin, it's minus 70%, still saying it's a store of value.
Yeah.
I've got an idea. It's so crazy that it might just work. So I want to run it past you. So I was watching this documentary. It's probably a month, 2 months ago, something like that, right? And they're in Central African Republic. And basically the people are so poor. I mean, they really just have nothing. Everybody's coming up to, it was filmed by a white guy. Everyone's coming up to the white guy, just asking for $1, whatever it is, right? I had an idea about going to specifically the Central African Republic, or even just a country like Central African Republic, going with, say, I looked at I think the population was a few million in Central African Republic. So to give everybody $5 would cost like $10 million, which is obviously a lot. But I was thinking about going over there, like creating like a Monero community fund, going over with $10, $20, $50,000, whatever we come up with, and just give everybody $5, $10. That way, everybody, I mean, generally speaking, a lot of people still have smartphones over there because it's pretty common these days. Going over there, giving everyone $5 or $10, that way it almost becomes the money in a roundabout way. And that way you've got unofficial nation state adoption where everybody's using it. What do you think?
I think you don't have like great results on that. It's either like a big success or a total failure. If you ask me like truly about that, I will look into what I think it was Dash or Nano. I think it was Dash in Venezuela and stuff like that. Try to do, because they try to officially really like push for adoption, because okay, the Bolivar is like basically worth nothing. Everybody just earns like $2 a month, so just give them money and then they will use it. And what happened, at least you could get a Venezuelan here, but at least what I understand, it's kind of similar to what happened here. I mean, it's very hard to break the urge of people just to fly the thing that they don't know and exchange it for the thing that they do. So you get the Monero in there, and people either don't care because they cannot exchange it for anything, and it's just like magic beans, tokens, digital. Just like, yeah, sure. If they know how to exchange it for something, they will try to get rid of it the moment you give it to them. Basically because it's like, hey, right, free money, but I can change it for rice today. Just give me the rice. Monero has no history there. So that's the thing that you're fighting against. And the only way that I can see it working, if it does, is if you have some other side of the economy just taking Monero. I mean, because basically it's not a new trick, it's the government's trick. I mean, you have to pay your taxes in your currency. That way they ensure at least a bit of demand, right? So you need to not only provide the money, but also provide the goods that are offered by the exchange of Monero. For example, if, I don't know, I don't know Africa, but it's like, okay, some foods. I mean, I can get 50% of the money is used actually to give money to people, and the other 50% is used to basically buy subsidized food. So then if people uses the Monero for food and buy it on those stores, it's cheaper than buy it otherwise, right? And then the magic trick that you have to manage to pull off is that the people in charge of the food selling don't just liquidate the money back to you all the time, because otherwise it's like a fake perpetual machine that doesn't go anywhere, right? But I think the moment that you get some really, even if it's just one use case, people just have it and they will start saving, and then you get all the slowly organic adoption. Is like, oh, okay, well, I don't need food, but I need my sink fixed. I have no money. Can you accept my Moneros and all that? Because you can get food afterwards with those Moneros. Oh, okay, it's all right. No, I don't mind. You get spreads everywhere, but it works. It works like that. I've seen here in the past they were so out of, like in 2001 or something like that. They invented a second currency just for some provinces to pay their employees, the public employees, because they don't even have national money. And what I was telling to you, like, work like that. It's just people fly from no matter the exchange rate, they just get rid of it. But eventually some local shops, some groceries, like little stuff, is like, well, okay, I take those at 50%, I take those at 70%, stuff like that for a while. So you need both sides of the equation.
Andres, thanks so much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. And for you and everybody listening, Happy New Year.